Well, just a couple of days ago, we were even wondering if the Delhi side would be able to put enough players out there on the park. And remember, they were the one team who had to play 2 matches in 3 days. Not only have they done that, they've won their previous game, and here they are up against, in a sense, the form team of the tournament in the Rajasthan Royals. It should be quite a cracker. They've come off a win. Rajasthan have been winning matches even while losing tosses. And this is game number 34 at the Wankhede Stadium. At the very top, let me remind you that the record remains 34-0. And I'm talking about the record of captains winning the toss and fielding first. It's Delhi who have done it on this occasion, and Rajasthan won't mind losing the toss because every time they bat first, they seem to win. Let's go straight and meet our expert panel. Shaun Pollock, Lisa Sthalekar joining us. Shaun, just a first reaction in terms of the toss. We're almost going to get to a stage when we'll have a sweepstakes. Who will blink first? Who will be the first captain to decide to bat first?
Well, maybe they'll wait right until the final or the knockout stage, and then they'll really change things up. I can remember once we played at the Commonwealth Games and went out to bat or to spin the coin, and I told the whole team that we would be batting first because the wickets were breaking up. And when I got out there, I just had this gut feel. Won the toss, decided to bowl first, came back in the dressing room, and they said, "You can't be for real. There's no ways. You're just joking with us. We're obviously batting." I said, "No, I've won it, and let's go and have a bowl." So you never know. In the big crunch games, maybe they'll change it up.
Well, I'll come back to Shaun on that to find out what exactly happened in the first 10 overs of that game when they bowled first. But Lisa, for now, I think Rajasthan, they'll keep them telling themselves, let's keep losing tosses.
Yeah, why not? The only time that they've lost so far this IPL has been when they actually won the toss. So the crux of it for them has been behind Butler and Hetmeyer. They're the ones that have been scoring plenty of runs and getting above par totals when they bat first.
Let's quickly show you the points table in terms of where the two teams stand. Delhi coming off a win, a very good win against Punjab. And there you see 8 points to Rajasthan, 6 points to Delhi, looking to get into that little cluster on 8. There's no more of a log jam that there was on 6. It's a couple on 10, 3 on 8, 3 on 6. And then, of course, Chennai and Mumbai, who are propping up the table. Chennai, with a couple of wins, they could still get themselves mathematically back into things in a couple of games' time. But that's as far as that is concerned. Also, Shaun, both teams are going in unchanged. And I think we're probably at the stage in the tournament where we'll see more and more of this once 11 start settling down, barring injury.
Yeah, after the two performances they had, you wouldn't really think they would change much. I mean, Delhi didn't even have a chance to look at any batter from number 4 down. So there's nothing they did really wrong. And the bowling was so good that it bowled the team out and they had to chase such a small total. So no surprise. I think it's also at the stage of the tournament now where you want to try and create some consistency. You want to run with the same individuals as much as possible. They've all worked out what their roles are on the side. They've almost got a feeling for when they're going to come in and bowl. What's going to be required from them from a batting perspective. And, the consistency tends to breed a bit of confidence in the unit as well. I mean, we've seen it. I mean, I know I looked at that table. I still can't believe that Chennai and Mumbai are sitting at number 9 and 10. It's a hard one to swallow. But if you look at those two teams when they've been successful, not being at number 9 and 10, the reason for it has been the consistency and how they've always stuck with the same players. And almost, the lineups can become predictable. So I think it is a good trend, particularly in the middle stages.
Yeah, it's been interesting. I was having an informal chat with friends yesterday, and we were looking at sort of classifying every team. Obviously, Mumbai and Chennai, oh my God, what have they done? Rajasthan, wow, they've done so well in the auction. Punjab. And we realized at the end of the discussion, strangely, we hadn't even mentioned Delhi. So I'm not sure what to take out of that because they've not really made a statement, and yet they're kind of there and thereabouts.
Yeah, I think historically the last few years, what they were able to achieve, they were certainly a side that you spoke a lot about. But then you look at the start of this IPL and they didn't necessarily have their full quota of players available. They were only playing 2 internationals and now because of COVID and Mitch Marsh in hospital, now without Ricky Ponting. So it hasn't been smooth sailing for Delhi so far in this edition of IPL. but yet when they get it together, when we saw against Punjab what they can do, they certainly should be a franchise that you should talk about. But they do look a different side without Kahisa Rabada and kind of leading the way there. So I find it fascinating actually to see how they'll progress over the next few games.
Yeah, I think the point's so valid. You talk about a statement. They almost had a style to them last year where a statement was made by the way they bowled or the way they batted. You had an understanding what you were going to expect, whereas you don't actually quite know what you're going to get from them or how they're going to go about it. And at the start of the tournament, they were land-drilling down the bottom, weren't they? I mean, it was almost like the best three from last year were the bottom three from this year. But now they've found some form. They've started to perform a little bit better, and we're starting to maybe see the true personality of Delhi Capital starting to come to the fore.
Yeah, and the couple of wins that we can think of in recent times, they've really bossed the opposition. One was the afternoon game against Kolkata, and then, of course, last time around against Punjab. Both really decent sides, and not the kind of sides that generally get bossed. But, Lisa, one name missing from them, apart from Mitch Marsh, of course, will be on the bench, a certain Mr. Ricky Ponting. He's been such an influence, and I know that once you've done all the job, it's ultimately Ricky would say the boys have to play the game out there, but they will miss him.
Yeah, they'll miss him. Just we don't get to see a lot of the conversation. I mean, digital teams now are giving us all access, really, but he does have a lot to say in the change rooms. He does get around to each individual. You may see some players actually come out and say, well, we're doing it for Ricky and the players that are not here and the rest of the support staff that are down with COVID. But he is a big influence, but they've got some big personalities as well still within their support staff. So no doubt they'll pick up the slack.
Yeah, that's what tends to happen with some of these teams. They've got lots and lots of personalities in there. I'm sure there'll have been a little dressing room session. There will be after that, talking about the presence or lack of for Ricky Ponting. But just looking at the opposition, that's the influence of Delhi. Maybe not quite slipping under the radar, but maybe not playing that particular style and flair. Rajasthan also, let's confirm, unchanged. No need to have changed it. Don't fix what isn't broken. And Shaun, they probably look the most balanced side. We go on about Riyan Parag. When is he going to make an impression? Other than that, and with Karun Nair just coming in, everyone sort of made an impression when they've come in here already.
Yeah, I would probably throw Padikkal into the mix there. Him and Jaswal at the top of the order haven't really fired, and that's been a surprise for me. It's almost been like they've probably been too focused on who should or shouldn't be playing between the two of them and not worried about how they're going to get the runs. But I think the key is twofold. Is Butler's been good. He's been really consistent, which maybe he hasn't been at all stages in his RPL career in years gone by. And then the bowling. I just love the look of their bowling attack. I think, as you mentioned earlier, the RPL, the auction, it was just fantastic to see them pick it the way they did. And those guys have answered the call. So Butler's runs, as you can see, is key. But I just like the balance. And I think even from a captaincy perspective, when you walk onto the field and you say, oh, these are my 5 options, you've got to feel comfortable about that.
Yeah, and they've just added a little extra dimension to it. If we can go back to the 11, Lisa, they're not a team that had to make too many changes over the season, but just the addition of Obaid McCoy, who, again, enough people don't know about unless you've been at the CPL and seen him play for the national side as well.
Yeah, I mean, you look at what he was able to do the last game as well, his death bowling, which means actually now you can use Trent Boult more at the top, especially with against Prithvi Shaw and David Warner. Boult, you could almost bowl him 3 overs at the top with Obaid McCoy doing more of the death bowling. So it gives them a few options, and they stuck with him, and he's come good. He's got great changes of pace. Great with his Yorker. So it's great to see him out there doing his stuff and performing well, in the biggest tournament in the world.
But of course, Obaid McCoy, Trent Boult, Yuzvendra Chahal, they'll all have to wait a little while until Butler and company do the job up front, which means the first focus will be on Delhi's bowlers. And again, you talk about personalities. The likes of Rabada have been there and Nokia. Shaun, but almost leading the way right now, quietly, is Khalil Ahmed.
Yeah, I've been really impressed with what I've seen from him. I mean, they almost stumbled across him, didn't they, in this team selection? And it was a massive void to fill. I was looking at the stats. I got the guys to send me a message about, initially in the top first 6 overs, how have Delhi gone? And you can see his improved performance. A lot of that, I think 6 of those wickets or 5 of those wickets have been in those first 6 overs. So I think he's been vital to try and fill that void left by Nortje's obviously there, but not playing, and Rabada. And as we say, we always sort of understood what Delhi was all about in those first 6 overs. We weren't sure where those overs were going to come for. Shardul Thakur hasn't quite answered the call this year, particularly up front. It's a role that he hasn't really played much for Chennai over the years. So they've needed someone to stand up, and Khalil's done exactly that. And he just looks to have an air of confidence, also a little bit of freedom, almost like his action that I've seen from him this season has been a little bit freed up, where he can just run in and really try and bowl as quick as he can and get the ball to move around.
And he's probably, Lisa, been the one who's made sure that, say, the lack of a Nortje, and we saw what happened when he came in for his first game, has really been papered over in a sense. A bit like what Bangalore have done with Virat Kohli.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes players that aren't the high profile, the big internationals, the big coin, when they don't fire, or when they're in the side and you're kind of the next rung down, you almost go a little bit under the radar. People aren't really mentioning your name, and you can just go about your business. And if you've got the backing of your captain out there in the middle, that's sometimes all you need. And it looks like he's getting the right fields. He's being able to execute and bowl to his fields as well. And that obviously, as we know, in T20 cricket is so vital.
Yeah, and we look at his keeping. I mean, maybe if we could have a quick look, if we can, at the entire squad that's available to them. At the very start, we told you they're the one team who suffered the most in terms of waiting for players. Then came COVID. And I think the only reason, Shaun, I'm putting this up is if you look at a couple of the options they've got in the bowling department. Lungi and Giri in the overseas department, Nagar Koti, who played a key role in Kolkata, and Chetan Sakaria, who was one of the standouts in the previous season for Rajasthan.
Yeah, he was. I mean, he did brilliantly, didn't he? And Nagarkoti was good. And, even the Fizz hasn't been quite on song. I think he maybe is still trying to find his personality at Delhi. He was such a part of Sunrisers for so many years where he was comfortable. Lungi and Giri hasn't got a game. I think he's getting quite used to doing that at the RPL. Wherever he goes, he just tends to sit and watch. But yeah, I mean, you probably would have been surprised if you had gone through that initial list and said, okay, you've got to pick me 2 or 3 bowlers. I mean, Kuldeep Yadav's been great, hasn't he? It's so nice to see him back and confident, and the pace that he's bowling at has been really good to watch. But if you had to say, pick for me 3 or 4, I don't think Khalil would have been on that list. I don't think he would have been one of those guys you had gone to. And guys are aware of that. They have to take the opportunities, and sometimes, from a catalyst perspective, you get that 1 or 2 chances. If you take it, you can run with it for the rest of the season and be good. And he seems to have done that. So long may it live for the Delhi Capital fans.
Yeah, and since Shaun mentioned or used the phrase support of the captain, and we were referring to a couple of other players, there is no better example in the entire tournament, Lisa, I think, than success from support of captain and coach than Kuldeep Yadav.
Yeah, and, we had to do a piece of, who you're most excited to see back in and kind of playing a huge role. And I put Kuldeep Yadav as it, simply because, you go back, you rewind a couple of years ago when he was at Kolkata, and, he had a great couple of years, and then it almost like he got the yips. He couldn't land the ball. I remember one game, I think he was in tears afterwards, and you hate to see players like that. So for him to go through that and sit on the sidelines a lot in the last few years, and then finally change the franchise, and them giving him the faith, says a lot. It says a lot about Ricky Ponting and Rishabh Pant, what they've been able to do just to instill confidence in him. And you look at the 3 wins that Delhi have had, he's got 3 player of the match performances. So he's a huge part to their success.
And it's not something we've heard in the past, to be honest. I mean, even with top players, how often have coaches gone up to them and say, mate, you're playing 14 games? That doesn't mean he necessarily has to play every one of them. He could be injured. They could maybe need a particular game where they need a different balance of the side. But so far, he's played every game and he knows that he's there. And if he's not there, it's for a good reason. And what about his response? We've referred to Ricky Ponting's quote a million times before right here on Cricbuzz Live. Let's have a look at Kuldeep Yadav himself. We thought we'd pull out a quote from him. And this is what we have from him. And here's a couple of interesting things he said in there. I don't watch videos now. When you're very confused, you watch videos to see what a batter might do. I just focus on my line and length and not what the batter is going to do. To be very honest, I'm enjoying my bowling after a long time. And the credit goes to Rishabh for backing me. So it's coach as well as captain, Shaun, going by that.
Yeah, I think it isn't. It's more from a spinner's perspective. You have to have the keeper. I mean, we think of what Dhoni's done over the years. You hear him in the stump marks giving advice about the pace, about the flight, and you can have that kind of impact. And I think Rishabh Pant is one of those individuals who they obviously get on really well with. I think Kuldeep has always been a case in point. I mean, we saw him at Mumbai. I think he trialed with us in 2011. And he always had some fantastic potential. The variations he had, we'd go watch and ask him to show us the different variations. But you just always got that feeling that it was too slow. And that by giving it as much air as he did, people were going to be able to get down to him. And if it was short enough, they could rock back and punish him. Whereas now, I think after, as Lisa said, after he had that little period where he maybe got to the yips in some sort of way, he's really worked out. He's confident about bowling things at that pace. All the variations, not just some, all of his variations are at the right pace. And I think that's been the key. And once he's got that, and you do get the feeling that, hey, this team's believing in me now, and my captain. I mean, I think there was the last wicket he picked up the other night. I mean, last ball, why come around the wicket and bowl the Chinaman? And he went and he did it, and it knocked over the stumps. And the celebration with him and Rishabh Pant suggested to me that was Pant's idea. And look, it worked a trick. And that's what you want, and that creates a happy environment for both.
Yeah, and I think we're going to see bowlers hunting in pairs more and more, Lisa. We've been talking about that over the last few days. Partnerships. In the opposition, we've got Chahal doing well, but Ashwin contributing. Maybe doesn't take a wicket, but 4 overs for 18, 19 runs. So here, he's got a very different spinner, but someone he gets along well with in Akshar Patel. So they will also, he'll feed a little bit off him as well.
Yeah, I feel sorry as a finger spinner. We're just not picking up the wickets, but I think we're creating the opportunities at the other end for the wrist spinners to get the bag full. But yeah, you do work in partnerships. If you can keep one end a little bit tight, restrict the runs, restrict the boundary opportunities, then all of a sudden, especially with the wrist spinners who are willing to flight it a little bit more because they generally turn the ball more, they're going to entice and dangle the carrot out to the batter to go, hey, you want to take me down? Here's an opportunity. But they've been able to, both Chahal and Kuldeep Yadav have been able to kind of execute really well. And that wide one that they kind of bowl, especially Chahal to the right-handers, to see, come on, are you going to come? Are you going to come? Even if he goes for a few wides, he's okay to do it. But the finger spinners so let's not forget the finger spinners. They play a very important role in T20 cricket. It doesn't always have to be wrist spinners.
Not for a moment, Lisa. Have we forgotten them, Shaun?
Well, I just think from a spinner's perspective, the connoisseur tonight would be absolutely loving it. View to the TV, get your 40 overs in. Going to see probably 4 of India's best. Probably the guys who've represented India the most in international cricket over the last period of time. So, yeah, it should be fascinating to see how they get on and how the bowlers deal with them. Also, the surface. I think if the surface offers a bit of assistance, then it could be really mesmerizing to watch.
Yeah, I didn't even think of that. As soon as Shaun mentioned that, you start to think, if we add up all the games representing India in this particular matchup, Rajasthan versus Delhi, you're going to have quite something. But for the moment, who's up first? It's Rajasthan batting first. We've got a lot of strength up front. How about a little matchup? Let's have a look at maybe a Shimron Hetmeyer. If we look at a Shimron Hetmeyer against spin, and particularly death batting, when it comes to death batting, he might be coming up against, a couple of the slower bowlers. But Shaun, this is what he's done. This is how destructive he's been, a lot in the company of Joss Butler.
Yeah, I mean, he can be that way. And you know, this kind of surface, Mumbai, you know, when we used to work there, it almost feels like it's the one ground in India where there's a bit of a trampoline effect. And if you get your wrong length, as a spinner in particular, it's just a case of hitting through the line and it can go out the ground. And, you know, even the mistimed ones tend to fly. So I'll be interested to see how he goes. You know, I think he's one of those guys who, I suppose we always expect a little bit more from him, don't we? Because we see such talent and ability in certain innings that he plays. And he'll be hoping to get those facts and figures like we saw, getting them really on point tonight.
But yeah, I think you have to give a lot of credit to the man at the other end. Very soft-spoken. I think if you put the two of them together, you'd get personalities from two ends of the spectrum. On the one hand, there's Shimron Hetmeyer. When he misses a ball, the scream would be heard back in the Caribbean. But Lisa, Joss Butler, I tweeted the other day. I said, you cannot get a player whose personality with the bat is as different as his personality as in an interview.
Yeah, he doesn't give much away, does he? It's like you're drawing blood from a stone when you're trying to get something out of him. He's very quietly spoken. He goes about his business. He's not there for all the bells and whistles. He's there to do a job and do it well. And, you know, I remember a couple of nights ago, Michael Vaughan and I, we were just talking, and he goes, surely he's got to be the best white ball batter going around right now. And you can't argue with what he's been able to do at an international level and then also in a franchise perspective. But 375, averaging 75, going at a good clip, 200s already. And I mean, we're only halfway stage of the tournament. It's a huge opportunity for Butler just to go big in this tournament, something that we saw like almost with Virat when he scored 800, 900 runs. So he's got that potential to go really big this tournament.
Yeah, I think also his personality goes really well with when he's doing well. The way he speaks, because you don't think he's going into his shell or becoming a bit subdued. You know, he's playing brilliantly and he just speaks in that calm demeanor. When he's not performing, you think, oh, maybe he's not feeling comfortable. Maybe he's feeling a little bit depressed or something, the way he speaks, because there's not much energy. But he's not brash, hey, at least. He's not like some Australians. No.
Oh, geez. I'm waiting for it. We've taken a long time to get into putting the boot in.
But it's the other extreme, Shaun. I mean, I was just listening to him the other day, and he's like almost regretful of every run he scored. He's just smashed bowlers. He just smashed some egos out there. And he goes, yeah, I think that was all right. I did all right. Yeah, that's it. I'm Joss. I interviewed him in Hong Kong once. I couldn't even hear him 5 feet away.
He's to be honest, watching him, his timing is impeccable. Like he just has to punch the ball and it's heading off his bat like a rocket. Back foot shots. I think he did a back foot straight six, like just ridiculous shots, like shouldn't be playing. So he's in a purple patch at the moment.
Yep, purple patch with the orange cap. That is Joss Butler at the moment. And if the pitch report is anything to go by, there are probably a few more runs on offer at the Wankhede than we have at the start of the season so far. Remember, it is a shifted venue. This match was not supposed to be at the Wankhede. This was supposed to be at the MCA ground in Pune. But a bit of rescheduling that happened because of what happened in the Delhi camp. And now they're back at Wankhede, just a few yards away from where they're staying. So I'm wondering if that's going to play into Rajasthan's hands, Shaun. They'll be thinking, if this Wankhede Stadium is offering a few more runs, we don't mind, bring it on.
Yeah, I think they've also got the style of bowlers and batters who enjoy that kind of surface, to be totally honest. There's a couple of them that have played for the Mumbai Indians, have made their home ground there, so they know their way around that park, and I'm sure they'll be on point.
Yeah, but Delhi will be looking at carrying the confidence forward from their last victory against a very powerful Punjab side. We're going to just try and get a prediction in from Shaun and Lisa. So maybe you can just start thinking about that while we bring all of you our quiz question for the day, courtesy Joy Bhattacharya. What does he have for us on the start or on the verge of another weekend of cricket? A Chandigarh-born cricketer holds an ODI record where he is above Kapil Dev on that list. That's interesting. Wonder if Kapil Dev even features on that list. Name the record and the cricketer. Chandigarh-born cricketer. Sometimes it can be a googly, sometimes not. Think about it. Hashtag Cricbuzz Live. Get your answers back to us. That's your question for the day.
That's one of Joy's more broader questions. I mean, I'm thinking of how many different angles you can tackle that answer from. Anyway, we'll see. I'm sure someone's got the right answer out there.
Already.
Yeah, correct. Yeah. Freaks.
All right, so we're not sure what the Wankhede is going to offer us. Suggestion is maybe a few more runs. Rajasthan like to make runs for fun, and Delhi have been on a roll as far as the ball is concerned. They've just got a side out like Punjab for under 120. So, Shaun, what are you going for?
Well, I'll just maybe try and irk Lisa a little bit. I'll go for 187.
I was going to say 186.
Yeah. Oh dear.
No, I won't go that close. I want to go higher or lower.
I could go.
The game is starting soon, Lisa.
Settle down. It's all right. We normally commentate the first over, didn't you know? That's the change.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll let you. If Butler goes first ball, Shaun, we'll let you revise that.
Okay.
I'll go 192.
All right, Lisa's going higher. I wasn't planning to go higher. I'm going to pause and wait if Butler survives the first ball. So I'm going to stick to 170. 170. So we've got 3 decades. We love to have 3 decades in predictions. The 70s, the 80s, and the 90s. It was 100. How much was you, Shaun, again?
I was 187. Can you guys see the sunshine? Can you see the sunshine? Yes,
we can.
Shining. Can you see my... It's quite cool, eh? Give me some stripes on my shirt, Lisa.
Yeah.
You know, when you're the sunshine.
You just wanted to join me, didn't you, really?
Oh. Okay, fine.
Where's your stripes?
I don't even know what they are. I have to earn my stripes, Lisa. There you go. Shaun and Lisa have already earned them. I'm a long way from getting them, but Joy has earned his stripes. He's earned more than his fair share. He's put out a quiz question, and now he's been busy getting out the latest episode of Retro Reels on Cricbuzz Plus. We had a previous one that had a lot to do with women's cricket and that 2005 World Cup. But let's see what's on store. The only way you can find out is by subscribing to Cricbuzz Plus. Get on there and find out what Joy has for us. And of course, when the weekend comes around and it's almost upon us, we're going to have Match Party come Sunday. That's great fun as well. Guess who's going to be there? The busy man himself, Joy. All right, that's all we have on the show here. It's Rajasthan against Delhi. Rajasthan have lost the toss, delighted to do so, and they are batting first. We'll bring you all the updates in the 10th over on Cricbuzz Combox. Until then, it's all we have from Lisa, Shaun, and myself on Cricbuzz Live.